Hey, you know what? Let's bring on a guy who's really from Louisiana.
That's right. Bring him on. Yeah, maybe you know how to do a Louisiana accent since Brian Kelly's kind of not figured it out yet.
Oh,
Leroy
that's the
Hoard,
worst.
thank you so much for joining us, man.
No problem. That's terrible. First of
What's
all,
your
that's
reaction?
not a Louisiana accent. You
So,
want to know a Louisiana accent?
yeah.
Here's what you do. You take a deep breath, and whatever you have to say, whatever story you telling, you say it in one word. That's Louisiana. Because if you stop, somebody else gonna start talking. You gotta wait to finish. That's Louisiana.
Look, Leroy, you were recruited heavily when you came out of high school.
You know, me and Ward were the first two people recruited out of Louisiana.
Wow.
At Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you learned to say things in more than one word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. We weren't actually going to go here, but we might as well ask a guy from Louisiana. If you were being recruited and a guy from Notre Dame who just came to LSU started pulling out a Southern drawl,
Who was from UMass, from Massachusetts?
yeah, what would you do, and what would other coaches be saying to you when they were recruiting you?
It wouldn't even make it that far, because my mom would look at me and say, "Is he serious?" So look, one of the things about sports, and you guys can tell me, one of the things I've always learned is be sincere. You can have a take. People don't have to agree with you, but if you're keeping it real, people appreciate that.
They'll respect you.
They'll respect, correct. And so that's one of the problems that sometimes athletes have with journalists and reporters, is that they want the hot question. It has nothing to do with who they are, but they want you to be personal. And there's a conflict there. But every time I've ever had a conversation with a person, I've been me. I'm not a person who's hateful or harmful, or gonna have to have the hot take. And so when I say something, people usually, take it for what it is, whether they agree or not, because I always keep it real. Now, that is not real. Not even close.
Well,
and somebody in this family had to say, "Whoa, Dad, what are you doing?"
Well, look, I could also vouch for the fact that Leroy was always real, much to the chagrin of your coach.
Yes.
At times.
Yes. I think here's where I was, and here's why there was conflict. Not bad conflict, but just conflict in general. Because I thought it was hilarious that I would have to practice with guys who I knew couldn't tackle me. And so I almost was offended that I had to stop and give them the satisfaction that they tackled me. And so I would laugh and joke and play. And Bo would be like, "You got to take this serious." And, college, rah-rah or whatever. I'm like, if I got to go out and kind of boost myself up to go out and play football, that means I can't play. So why are we doing this? All the rah-rah guys are special teams guys. They go out for 2 plays, come out, and then piss everybody off when the offense and defense got to go on the field. So that's how I viewed that. So I always, and I tell people all the time, let me have my method of going out and getting my ass kicked on every play. Right? You think it's tough? Imagine being a running back. You get hit on every play you're in the game. Let me deal with it the way I want to deal with it. Don't tell me how to deal with it. If I want to laugh while I'm getting it, let me laugh. If I want to talk trash, let me talk trash. Because in the end, there's only a select few people that have played this game that can go out there year after year after year and take that pounding and still give 100% effort every time. So eventually, Bo started calling me Leroy the Magnificent. He says, because your methods are a little bit different, but you always get it done.
You mentioned teammates. Jeff and I started the show talking about the Thursday night game last night. Don't know if you caught the Steelers game, the Chase Claypool celebration while his offensive lineman is trying to spot the ball again, clock running. What would you have done if your teammate was busy making a first down sign?
First of all, I know for a fact that the two teams that I mostly played for in Cleveland and Minnesota, we had a couple of offensive linemen that went and clipped him and got his butt in the right position, right? So he would have got tackled by the defense, and then one of the offensive linemen would have took him out and say, "What are you doing?"
Well, the center did. The center ran over and tried to grab the football away from him.
It's you know what? This is the world we live in now, that even as we talk about the game, we talk about individuals as the cause of winning and losing. And then we get offended when the players treat it like, look at me, right? It was, we used to be able to talk about a game and say, the running game wasn't good, or the passing game wasn't good, or the defense isn't stopping anybody. Now we look at it as, this guy was a first rounder. He can't get us more than 3 yards of carry, right? This quarterback, all he does is throw dinks and dunks. We need him to throw it down the field.
We hear that every week with Jalen Rager right now.
Right. And so when you think about football, the ultimate team sport, because I can tell you, a lot of people might not know who my left guard was, but I knew if he didn't block, I was in trouble. Right? If he didn't block on a consistent basis, I was in trouble. I knew if, hey, I don't care how open you are, if the quarterback can't get it there or the line isn't protecting, then you're not going to be able to celebrate your touchdown. It is the ultimate team sport, and I was fortunate that everywhere that I played football, including college, I played with a great group of guys. We all cared about one another. We all wanted the success, even in Cleveland when we weren't good all the time. So I was fortunate.
Well, talking about teammates, for those that don't know, Leroy was the MVP of the Rose Bowl in 1989. Quick quiz question. What two Michigan players actually have won the MVP of the Rose Bowl since you did in 1989?
Oh,
I would guess Tim Biakabatuka.
No.
Hold on.
Jeff needs like the Jeopardy music.
I don't know. I can't tell you.
Ty Wheatley and Brian Greasy.
Brian Greasy.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten that one.
I would have got Tyrone Wheatley.
Yeah.
But because Tyrone Wheatley and Tim Biakabatuka were the two guys that just destroyed Ohio State and then went to the Rose Bowl. Brian Greasy, I can't remember.
Well, don't be too modest. I believe in your time, I believe Michigan won 3 out of 4 against Ohio State, much unlike the last decade or so. But I was there.
One this year.
That's right, and I was there for that. But
and
I wanted
he
to talk to.
Hasn't let me forget about it since.
Well, yeah, but Leroy, I believe your freshman year, one of your teammates was the current coach of Michigan.
Yep, Jim Harbaugh. And how about this?
Yeah,
I've known Ward Manuel since we were 10 years old. Yeah, so we played Little League together. We went to different high schools. We played against each other. And in fact, the only reason why I got recruited to go to Michigan was Elliot Uzelak, who was the O-line coach at the time. He was recruiting Ward, who was the Gatorade Defensive Player of the Year. And we just happened to be playing them, and we destroyed them. So then he started recruiting me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, wait till Ward sees this tape.
No, hey, let me tell you, me and Ward have been friends forever. Played a lot of sports together because New Orleans is really small. People don't realize, you play sports with the same guys in your area, every sport through every weight class or age group. So my friends that I played baseball, football, basketball with, I played every sport from the time I was 8 or 9 till I went to high school. And then some of those guys I played with in high school. And so me and Ward, we were from different parks or different areas, but we always played on the all-star teams together.
All right. So let me ask you a question. If you, even though he was your teammate, and even though the athletic director was your buddy since you were 10, if I said to you before this season that Michigan was going to be in the college football playoff, only lose one game, where would you have had me committed?
I wouldn't have. And here's why. I'm a little more patient with things than most people.
That's because you're from Louisiana.
And one of the things that I appreciate, and I've always appreciated in sports, is patience. And keep in mind, okay, I played for a team that ran Bill Belichick out of town. Okay. And I'm not saying it would have worked out, but I'm saying it just proves that he was a good football coach that needed time. We hire these first-time coaches and expect them to just be awesome coaches right away. And if they don't, we get rid of them. And then a lot of times they go coach somewhere else and they come back and then they move around. And then after their second or third stint, okay, because I guess you want to hear one? How about Lane Kiffin? He bounced around a whole bunch of times. Now it looks like he's on solid ground. He's gonna be a coach somewhere. I love
well, the key is
does.
somewhere. Who knows how long he stays until he goes to the next job.
Right. But I love what Pittsburgh does. They hire a coach, they go through the process, they hire a coach, and then they turn the page and start concentrating on the team. They don't worry about the coach, they don't criticize the coach, they let him coach. And he is gonna be the coach for a substantial amount of time. They've done it throughout the history of their football club. And guess what? It's proven that it works because at every coach they've had has won a Super Bowl.
You know, you talk about coaches. We've seen insane movement in the last few weeks. Lincoln Riley's at USC.
Yep.
Brent Venables to Oklahoma. Brian Kelly to LSU. Mario Cristobal heading your way at Miami. Chip Kelly potentially talking to Oregon again, because why not? What are your thoughts on the coaching moves and what it means to the players who commit to those coaches, who then either decommit or are at a university with a staff that was not who they chose?
Let's not fool ourselves. It's a business. I'm never going to get mad at another person for doing what's best for him. Now, if you go to those kids and say, hey, your university is offering him $4 million, but that university over there is offering him $8 million, what would you do? We understand, coach. Have a nice life. That's the reality of it.
Right.
You can't in that situation be upset that a coach decides to go make money. It's called a profession, right? Because guess what? All things being equal, if he struggled the next couple of years, they ain't gonna hesitate in firing him. So why wouldn't he, if he gets an opportunity to make more money, go do it? If you're gonna get fired anyway, you might as well maximize what you can get while you can get it. So I'm never mad at a coach or a player. And guess what? That's life. Like, we big boys. Hey, big boys.
Yeah, but,
you know how the football works.
Yeah, I agree with you, but there's a way to do it. I mean, you can't do what Cristobal is alleged to have done, which is like be in kids' homes with their families and tell them, rah, come to Oregon, that kind of stuff.
Situation change.
No, but he knew at that point. At some point, he knew. Come on.
See, you're making assumptions just to fit what you believe.
Here's the Miami guy.
I love
you're making look. Yeah. You're making assumptions just to fit what you believe. Okay. I don't know what that situation was. To be honest with you, I never thought he'd come here for this reason. Miami has never spent this amount of money on their football program ever.
Yeah, it's a huge commitment.
Think about this. They're spending $8 million on a new coach, $9 million to buy him out, and $8 million to get rid of the old coach. That's not even counting who they're paying for assistant coaches.
And what about the athletic director too?
And the athletic director, absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? When you go cheap for so long, that's what it costs you. You got to overpay to get the guy you want. So look, I'm not mad at any coach for doing that, because I certainly didn't feel sorry for Manny Diaz for getting fired. Right? Like you can't have it.
You got paid on the way out the door.
Right. Once you sign that, see, here's the thing that kills me about all these other jobs in sports. There is only one job that's not guaranteed, and that's an NFL football player. Everybody else, you get traded, bumped, moved around, you go somewhere else or whatever. It's fine because once you sign that contract, it's guaranteed. And so I only ever feel sorry for a guy that signs this contract, makes that commitment, maybe could have went somewhere else as a free agent, but decides to come here, and in a year and a half, he's cut. That's it. That's the only guy I'll feel sorry for, because guess what? The team is basically saying, my bad, we gave you too much damn money. We don't want to pay you no more. What world does that work in other than professional football?
None.
It doesn't. So
none. I mean, look, we've talked to a lot of former NFL players, including a lot of old ones. We talked to Mean Joe Green a couple of weeks ago about how that generation, the generation even before ours, of how nobody took care of their health insurance. And
Right.
it is baffling to me that the NFL still doesn't take care of players who built this league into what it is when they have the money that they could do it.
You know why? Because they can.
Yeah.
Like it takes a different type of person to volunteer his money to take care of somebody else. See, in the world we live in today, whenever we do something like that, philanthropic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people go out and tell everybody they did it. And for the NFL to do something, and I think they're trying to, right? I think they're trying to. I'm a firm believer that you can only get what's available when you work. Because think about this. They have the health program now where you get X amount of dollars for every year of service. I missed out on that for a year. 1 year. If I'd known that deal was on there, I'd have sucked it up for 1 year because that would have set me up for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So we just, you don't know. And granted, they can do something, but they don't have to. I have to understand that. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't ask them or we can't say, hey, the game is booming. You can do something. And they've tried to. So I'm not going to get on them too much for that. Okay? Because in any other profession, see, the problem with this is when you have a profession where your contract is not guaranteed, it makes it more difficult to get into these deals where the insurance and everything is taken care of. And I think that's the problem. Like me personally, I think the NFL should have shorter contracts and guaranteed contracts. Because guess what? You won't be signing these 12-year, $270 million with $110 million guaranteed to make it look good. It'll be a Kirk Cousins deal. 3 years, $90 million. We'll revisit it again. We'll sign you early if you're doing well, but you're going to get this $90 million. And then all these contracts wouldn't be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after you get vested, especially after you play a number of years. Because when you get to your 4th and 5th year, that's the big contract right there. You should be able to cash in.
If you're still around.
If you're still around, yeah. Correct.
I mean, if you're not still around, you don't deserve to be. 3 years is a long time.
If you're not around, you don't deserve to be. Okay, there's teams that draft the wrong guys. Like, let's not let them off the hook either. Like,
don't worry, we have that in Philadelphia.
I was gonna say, look, I've got Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson, and Jeff never hears the end of it. So don't you worry. But you mentioned it, and you mentioned coaches and patience. We had that here. Nick Sirianni's first couple weeks, they wanted to run him out of town because he's making flower analogies. Then all of a sudden, he starts running the ball, and they're like, "This is a good team." Then Jalen Hurts has a terrible game, and we need to get rid of him. Then Gardner Minshew comes in. Oh, he's the best thing ever, and now we've got to have a quarterback controversy. Like, this roller coaster is just ridiculous.
It's football, and it's not all sports. Because guess what? In basketball, if you make that investment, you're gonna see it through. In fact, most of the time, their rookie guys sit out a year. They get a free year of money.
Wait,
sit out, get healthy.
It's mandatory.
Yeah,
you have to sit out at least 2 years.
Oh, the process.
And then we pay our guys after they sign extensions, and then they decide they don't want to play, and then
you know what I do? I always root against Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Oh,
let me tell you why.
And we were just going to get to the whole Philadelphia is playing Miami
because of the process.
Let me tell you why. That is exactly correct.
Yep.
Because if you have a group of guys and you let them think that it's acceptable to lose, then they're never going to fight through it. And that's what you have right now. You have a bunch of guys on your team that they don't know what it's like to fight through a struggle, because anytime they've had some kind of struggle, it's the process. It's the process.
Well, but we had one of those guys. We traded for him, and then we traded him to Miami. So now you have him. So we got Josh Richardson. Oh, that didn't work out either. So
yeah.
so what is it? What have you seen from? We see from afar what Jimmy Butler has done since he left Philadelphia. What do you see on it when you get to see him on a daily basis as to what that mentality means to a team and how the rest of the team goes as he goes?
When you watch sports, any team, anywhere, you see that one guy that's like the spark plug, right? He may not be the engine. He may not be the high-powered, fuel injection and all that. But without him, it doesn't work. Without that spark plug, without that energy, without that want to, without that fight, without that determination, everybody else just seems to fall in line, right? That's what he was in Philadelphia. Okay. Jimmy Butler's on your team, your defense automatically gets better. Now, I don't know what that has to do for all the other guys. Maybe they look at Jimmy and say, we better get on point here, because this guy's balling. He's giving us effort. He's putting everything into it, and he will not allow anybody else to come into the game playing soft. And you think when you measure the numbers and this and that, oh, we can get another guy to do that. But you can't. You can't. And now you're finding out that all the things that you did, the worst thing you did was let Jimmy Butler go. Because I tell you what, with Jimmy Butler there, he would have kept everything else in order. They may not have liked it, okay? And that's the problem with young players in a lot of sports right now, is you pamper them, you tell them about the process, don't worry about it, sit out, you're our guy. And then when it's really time to be the guy, they can't fight through adversity. They want out. If you hold them accountable, if you tell them, hey, man, you got to be better than this. We're paying you a lot of money to be better. Instead of fighting through it and saying, you're right, I don't want to play here anymore. So that's what the situation is there. So
how bad does Jimmy Butler want to beat the Sixers when he plays them? And what's going to happen next week when the Sixers
You know
play
what?
them?
He really, he says it all the time. He really, really, really likes Joel Embiid.
And Joel really liked him. He didn't want him to go.
There's no hard feelings about, look, think about this. You think Tom Brady feels anything towards New England? He won a Super Bowl. He don't give a damn about New England no more. Right? You think
and it's a whole lot warmer.
Right? You think Jimmy Butler cares about Minnesota and Philadelphia? No, he went to the finals a couple of years ago. He's where he wanted to be. He wanted to have success. So, even though they try to make this a thing, especially in basketball, it's not really a thing because they all know each other. They all like each other. They're all friends.
All right. Well, we got about a minute left. We got to get a prediction from you as the Michigan guy. What's going to happen with the college football playoff? Does Michigan they're 7.5-point dogs right now against Georgia.
Yeah.
This is happening in your backyard. What is going to happen? I know you're going to be.
I'm going to tell you right now. Right? Georgia is a fraud. You can't be the best defense in the country and give up 41 points and get pushed around and punked. Okay? So there's blood in the water. And guess what Michigan does? Run the football, get after the quarterback, and control the line of scrimmage. That's a bad mix for Georgia because they throw the ball about like Michigan does. And they rely on their big uglies up front to just go and manhandle the other defensive line, and they big ball everybody. Then you start, when the team loses like that, you know what you do? You go back and check out their victories. You go back and check who have they beat? They're big SEC. Who have they beat? And you go and check all of those games they played.
Love the confidence. Jeff has not had your confidence all season, by the way.
No, guess what? The only time I ever got mad at Jim Harbaugh, the only time, stop switching quarterbacks. I get it. You want to get the young guy in there to do something, but he did that against Michigan State and they fumbled. Oh, and I was like, that's it. Enough of that.
You're done with patience at that point.
He wasn't done with it. He's not giving up on it.
He's not giving up on it. But guess what? You know why? Because all they got to do is hand it off to those two guys in the back.
Well, Leroy, we'll be watching.
Hey,
see what Jim is
Michigan is not a 7.5-point underdog to anybody in this country. Wow. Nobody, because you can do two things. They can do the two things that travel anywhere in the world to play football: run the ball, stop the run, get after the quarterback. You can do those things. You can play with anybody.
And we got a kicker. Well, don't forget, we got a kicker.
Look, if and when Michigan wins, I'm sure Jeff will want to be talking about it on the radio. So we will have you back.
I didn't know it was a Michigan day. I would look let me tell you.
I have to deal with this all
my stuff is dirty.
I'm a Rutgers grad, so the best I got is that we knocked off Purdue last night with a last-second shot. But I got
2 years ago we had the Rutgers rule.
Yeah,
that means we bet against Rutgers in every football game.
You do very well if you do that. By the way, when I was in college,
thank you. You just gave me fodder for the next 5 years.
The Rutgers rule. Hey, the Rutgers rule.
When I was in college, I did the same thing. Leroy, thanks so much, man. You take care of yourself.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Easy.